Welcome! Today, we're diving into an explainer that really sets the stage for a mind-bending exploration. We're looking at a fully automated future. We'll be unpacking source material that basically maps out the whole trajectory of artificial intelligence, human labor, and crucially, what all of this actually means for our day-to-day lives. So grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's unravel the post-work paradigm together.
Just imagine that for a second. What if you woke up tomorrow morning and literally every job on Earth had been taken by a robot? I mean, no doctors, no teachers, no drivers, no accountants. And not because humanity vanished or anything crazy like that, but simply because artificial intelligence and advanced robotics could suddenly do every single job better, faster, and cheaper than we ever could. It really begs the ultimate question, doesn't it? Would this be our absolute greatest achievement as a species or our greatest crisis?
Okay, Section 1. The rise of the thinking machines.
Let's actually dive right into how we got to the absolute brink of this reality. Because, this shift didn't just happen overnight. For centuries, really dating all the way back to the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s, machines were designed to replace physical labor, right? They replaced our muscles. But as we move from the early computers of the 1950s into the 1990s internet age, then the whole smartphone boom of the 2000s, and now crashing into the 2010s and 2020s with AI and advanced robotics, well, the curve goes completely exponential. We aren't just replacing physical effort anymore.
And that brings us to the core premise of all this. For the very first time in history, machines are not only replacing our muscles, they're actually beginning to compete with our minds. Seriously, this isn't science fiction anymore. Right now, today, artificial intelligence is out there writing comprehensive articles, it's generating photorealistic images out of thin air, it's coding complex software, it's even analyzing intricate medical scans with incredible accuracy. Sometimes it's spotting anomalies that human eyes miss entirely. So, mental labor is officially on the table.
Now, automation almost always kicks off with repetitive work. Transportation is right there on the front lines, with autonomous tech poised to replace taxi drivers, truckers, delivery folks, and even pilots. Then you've got retail, which is already seeing AI-powered stores with zero human cashiers or sales reps. And office work, well, routine data entry, bookkeeping, and administrative tasks are increasingly being knocked out instantly by software. But spoiler alert, it absolutely doesn't stop there.
Which leads us to Section 2, when white-collar jobs fall.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the massive twist. For decades, conventional wisdom basically said highly skilled cognitive labor would always be safe from the machines. We'll scratch that, because that is no longer the case. A stark realization is emerging from the source material. The future may not be a battle between skilled and unskilled workers, it may be a competition between humans and machines. That completely shatters the old way of thinking. Cognitive automation is an equal opportunity disruptor. It's going to impact everyone, totally regardless of how many degrees you have on your wall or how specialized you think your knowledge is.
We're looking at highly respected, incredibly educated professions here. Lawyers, accountants, financial analysts, journalists, designers, software engineers, and yes, even doctors. AI is beginning to outperform humans in highly complex, super specific tasks within all of these fields. Whether it's drafting legal briefs, predicting market trends, or diagnosing rare diseases, the algorithms are catching up to, and in some cases, blowing right past human expertise. Turns out, a law degree doesn't make anyone immune to a software update. Moving right along to Section 3, Universal Basic Income Explained. Okay, so if we project forward to, say, the year 2060 and imagine a world with zero human workers, we hit an immediate, massive wall. We have to talk about how society actually functions economically. Think about it. If robots do all the work, who earns the money? Most people on this planet survive and earn their livelihood through employment. If employment as a concept just vanishes because machines do literally everything, we're facing a catastrophic crisis for human survival. The entire foundation of how we distribute wealth would just completely break down. So, one of the primary solutions proposed to handle this massive shift is Universal Basic Income, or UBI. Basically, this is a system where governments provide every single citizen with a guaranteed amount of money on a regular basis, entirely regardless of whether they have a job or not. It fundamentally decouples your survival from your employment, giving citizens a monthly baseline just to simply live. Let's break this down completely objectively. The advantages of UBI are pretty compelling. It could drastically reduce poverty, provide baseline financial security for everyone, and offer people the ultimate freedom to pursue what they actually care about without the constant threat of starvation. However, the challenges? They are equally massive. How do governments actually fund this? Will injecting that much money into the system trigger runaway inflation?
And honestly, is a system where machines produce everything and governments just distribute it economically sustainable in the long run? It's a very tricky balancing act. Which brings us to a really personal question for you. If your basic needs, your housing, your food, your healthcare, were entirely covered by a basic income, would you still work? What would you actually do with your days? Keep that in mind as we look at where this giant macroeconomic shift could ultimately take us. All right, section 4, utopia versus dystopia. This technological crossroads basically leads us to two wildly different potential futures. It's a massive fork in the road for humanity. On one side, we have the golden age scenario. This is an incredibly optimistic future of infinite abundance. Robots produce everything so cheaply that the cost of living just plummets. Humanity enjoys the highest standard of living in history, and we get to spend our time on art, science, and personal growth. Work becomes totally optional. But conversely, we have the dark scenario. If the machines are owned by just a small handful of elite organizations, we could see unprecedented wealth concentration. And that leads to extreme economic inequality, all-powerful tech corporations dictating society, and massive social unrest. The technology itself is neutral, right? The outcome depends entirely on how we choose to structure our society. And that brings us to section 5, redefining human purpose. This is really the deep philosophical climax of our explainer today. Because if we assume the machines are handling all the labor, we have to pivot away from the technology itself and figure out how to redefine human purpose. For thousands of years, work hasn't just been about getting a paycheck. Our jobs have provided us with identity, a sense of purpose, daily structure, the feeling of achievement, and a super vital network of social connection. If nobody literally needs to work anymore, where do we find these 5 essential things? What gives our lives meaning when the alarm clock doesn't ring on a Monday morning? Now, historically speaking, we've actually always found a way to adapt. Every single time new technology destroyed old jobs, humans were remarkably good at creating new opportunities. Think about it. We evolved from being a society primarily of farmers to factory workers during the industrial age to office workers, and now we're mostly digital professionals. So what exactly is step 5? What are the new industries we can barely even wrap our heads around yet? We might actually see an explosion of entirely new careers. Things like virtual world architects, building digital realities, space settlement designers, or maybe human AI relationship coaches, helping us navigate our bond with machines. Because let's face it, breakups with your smart toaster might get a little complicated. Maybe we become a society of digital experience creators or deep consciousness researchers. The human drive to explore and create doesn't just turn off simply because a robot can do math faster. So, the absolutely crucial point is this. What makes us inherently human? Sure, machines might become smarter, and they will certainly become faster, but intelligence alone doesn't define us. It's about creativity, deep, genuine empathy, complex emotion, nuanced ethics, wild imagination, and authentic human connection. A machine can perfectly execute a task, absolutely, but can it comfort someone during a crisis with true shared understanding? These are the uniquely human traits that speed and pure processing power just cannot easily replicate. Which leaves us with this incredibly powerful realization from the source material. The future will not be decided by robots. It will be decided by the choices humanity makes today. We've been building machines to serve us for thousands of years. Now, we're building machines that may actually outperform us. But this huge transition into a post-work world, it isn't really about the hardware. It's about our social, economic, and moral choices right now. I want to leave you with this final, lingering thought to chew on. If robots replaced every single job, would humanity finally be free to reach its ultimate potential, totally liberated from the daily grind of labor? Or, without the structure and purpose of work, would we be completely lost? It is arguably the most important question of our time. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.